call the meeting to order at 6:19. Welcome, everybody. It's the first meeting of the year. Happy New Year. I wanted to start today, as we gather here tonight, with heavy hearts. For those of us left wondering about the sudden losses of life, quote, tonight lightly edited from Rainer Maria Rilke. I'm probably not saying that properly, but bear with me. I want to be, it's just edited just a little bit. I want to be patient towards all that is involved in your hearts, and to try to love the questions themselves, like the locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Our deepest thoughts and sympathies are with the family enduring this unimaginable loss. We especially want to acknowledge that the mother is a cherished member of our district staff, and we want to stand beside her and her family in this heartbreaking time. As a community, it's essential that we lean on one another for strength and support. Our principals have ensured that resources for grieving, reflection, and processing are available for both students and staff. This support is designed to create a safe and nurturing space to express emotions and navigate this journey together. Grief touches us differently, as Becca said in her email, but in times like this, the power of community cannot be overstated. We encourage everyone to reach out if they need help. No one should walk this path alone. Together, we will find the strength to face this difficult moment and support one another through it. Thank you for joining us tonight and for being part of the compassionate and caring community. Let's have a moment of silence before we get started. Okay, any adjustments to the agenda? Welcome to our guests that are here with us today, and for all of you that have joined us online. We are now going to move into public comments. If you have a comment, please raise your hand online, and if you have a comment in here, please also raise your hand. I don't see any hands up. I don't see any hands up online. Please unmute yourself if I'm not seeing you. We're trying to, okay, I don't see any. Okay, so we're gonna move into our math presentation. So just bear with us 1 minute. Caroline, we're gonna get started. Just bear with me 1 minute. I want to make sure that I have it running.
Yeah.
They might get feedback. Just tell me if they do online. When I go right here, test, test.
Okay.
They're not.
Are they getting any feedback? Do I need to mute them?
Yeah. One second. I'm just wanting to not start it because she's gonna. I just want to have it ready for you. She's going to do a game with all of us first and then start it. And then I'll, okay.
And if anybody's good at tech and wants to work on this, getting up there, while I do the first piece, that would be welcomed. Okay. Any feedback? Are we ready to go?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So those of you who were on the board last year, you know I like to do hands-on presentations. So I'm going to start this math presentation, and I'm so glad that Fergus is here because he knows how I start every math class. Raise your right hand if you're ready for math. Awesome. Okay, now, board members, in front of you, you have a paper cup. That was not for your water. You also had a water cup. Don't mix up the two. But in your plastic cup, there are 2 dice. You're going to shake the dice and tip the cup upside down so that the dice stay on their spot, and then lift it up to see what number you have. When you roll an 8, stand up, and when everybody stands up, we will start the presentation.
Oh, there's no way. Oh my gosh. 9.
Oh, good. Here, oh, you did it. I didn't do anything. Okay, then just put it so that it's...
11. 8.
Okay, good. Almost all the way there. No, it's okay. We work as a team. So one of the reasons we do it, that we all stand up and we start when we're all ready, is because really math typically is an area that a lot of kids and adults and people have more. Don't move that.
Sorry.
They tend to have more feelings about math. They sometimes need a little bit of a confidence boost. So we always start with making it cooperative rather than competitive. Nice job getting an 8. Everybody can have a seat. The other reason to use dice is dice cards, we've moved away from doing a lot of math type games. We're really good at having word print all over, but sometimes numbers, we need a little bit more work. And so playing games is the number one thing that families can do when they want to help their child with math. All right, so now, Rumney Math. So I just want to say ahead of time that I'm going to show a lot of Rumney's successes. We are very proud of our math data, and that will be shown tonight. And then we will also be honest about our next steps and the work that we still have to do. So that's the presentation tonight. I thought you might be interested to know what our iReady math program, what it does for teachers and why it is such a tool for them. So I'm going to take you through at the end a little bit of the view of a teacher and what they can do with the tools in their classroom. So I hope you enjoy. Forgive me as I'm going a little bit back and forth. Can you see that, or do you need the lights turned down?
You know the lights?
You're right next to the lights. One of them will turn off just these, and that would be ideal.
Oh, it's not
Perfect.
showing? I don't know.
Thumbs up if you got the data on there and you're ready.
It's not up online yet. Yeah, wait, it's
Not
not,
online yet.
yeah,
So just
for some
click
reason, I have it,
To the
If-
second slide.
that's where I am, but it's not. Okay, hold on a minute. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as that, because, yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
That says grade level performance data on most recent diagnostics. Now, it's January, so we're about to do our next one. So this is actually from the start of the year, the fall assessment, which was given in September. And I wrote the sign, this is where I said I would be sharing some successes. That is huge. So you've looked at some other data. Those test results are to be celebrated, and our teachers are amazing, and we are really proud of that data. So I wanted to highlight that. And then this is where it gets disaggregated. So this breaks it down, scores by gender as defined by iReady. We've spoken about that a little bit. And by special education. So those are the discrepancies based on that disaggregated data. And then the next one is the more significant one for Rumney when we look at our data. So when we disaggregate and have it based on economic status, that's where there's the most discrepancy for Rumney. Thumbs up if you're ready to.
Yep.
Some people like to look longer. Anybody know what this slide means?
Plus.
Stephen does. Anyone have a guess? Take a risk. Ursula? Close. Good. Okay, the first symbol is a math symbol,
Deltas?
plus. So pluses and
Deltas?
pluses and deltas. Good.
It's like a delta.
Okay, I wasn't planning to read it, but it's really hard to see. So, we have less than 10% of students significantly below grade level or in red. And in September, students who score in the yellow range, meaning one grade level behind, is actually considered on grade level. So Rumney School, based on this data, has less than 10% of our students below grade level. That was the huge part. And we have more students above grade level, which is the green, than we have significantly below, which is the red. We are well above the state average for math success. All students that scored in yellow or red have plans. I want to clarify what I mean by that. That does not mean that if they have a plan, it's expected to be in yellow or red. What I mean is our teachers, when a student has a score that shows that they are struggling or below grade level, they take action, we get together as a team, and we make a plan. That's why that's a success. And we also recognize, our school has been recognized as 5th in the state of Vermont based on the VT CAP scores from last spring. So that was another huge success and celebration for our staff. So these are the deltas. Economically disadvantaged is a factor in math scores, and this needs to be addressed. That should not be a factor on success in math, and it is showing as a factor on our data. So we need to change that, we need to address it and by focusing on it. And we want all of our students to feel success in math and perform within one grade level of their age. So this is our growth data. So what this chart is saying is that 114% progress on annual typical growth, the expected annual typical growth, and then the current placement distribution shows our students, green would be ones making more than the expected growth, and the red would be students who were making less than the expected growth. And that number is 2%. So that is another success. This is split out by grade. I won't go into each one, but I'll give you just a minute to look at it. And just thumbs up when you're ready for me to move on from that one.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh, you can't see it?
Yeah, it's hard to see there, so why don't you?
I will get you printouts.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me. I've looked at it so many times, I wouldn't have known. So this is my path, and I don't remember if Celia addressed this in her presentation or not. But my path is it comes with our iReady program, and it's when, go ahead. The top slide would say my path.
Yeah, got it.
You good? So this is the time in math, students go on and it adjusts the lesson based on their performance. And so it's really important. We have district agreements to do 30 to 40 minutes a week on my path so that students are getting individualized learning. Most teachers use my path when students are doing independent work, students have intervention or special education support. We'll get to that again later because it does have an impact. But if we look at Rumney, we have 86% at the 10 to 29 minutes, which is great. That's what we want. And then 78% had success on lessons after doing iReady. So those are good results as well. Okay, you won't be able to read this one. Just takes you down. This is my path usage by grade. So pluses and deltas based on the my path and the growth data. So through team discussions, all teachers utilize my path. There is a correlation between time on my path and success on assessments. That's not just for Rumney, that's proven. And we saw it at Rumney as well, which is great. And then the deltas, students that receive intervention or specialized instruction don't have as much time on my path as their peers. And that really comes down to scheduling. It's the best time for a classroom teacher to have their students on my path so that the students leaving for intervention or specialized instruction are not missing the vital level, layer 1 instruction. It also then takes some planning to make sure that students getting intervention also get time on my path. Then the other one is teachers remain hesitant to use my path as a way to increase stretch growth for high-performing students. So what this really means is one of the things we need to change is that teachers are still hesitant to follow district agreements with fidelity. So it's a conversation that we need to have and keep things moving. Often sharing the data of why we are doing it is really helpful, and especially when that information comes from a peer like our math interventionist. These are other forms of assessment that we use. Session quizzes. iReady allows us to do online or in paper, and teachers use their judgment. There are some students who do better when it's pencil and paper, and others who do better when it's online. So we have the flexibility to do that. There's unit assessments, and then the really important one is teacher observations, class participation, and discussions. We never want to lose that component. Can you see how cool that screen is? I was really proud of my PowerPoint, so I hope it really shines. Okay, so this is where I'm going to take you through. This is what iReady can do for teachers. So the next few slides were downloaded from iReady. So teachers can go on, they can download it, it goes right into Google Slides, and then, oh wait, I'll tell you the then after, I forgot. There's a discussion. Okay, tonight is your last night. Hopefully you're approving a budget tonight. So this first discussion is vitally important. Which would you rather? So can you see the choices? Anyone have one that they would rather? And then you have to, it's our first time with me being your teacher, so you don't have to back it up, but typically you give an explanation why. Amelia? A. A. So you would rather spend $4 and have $5 left. Connection. Anyone else have a connection with Amelia? Fergus, which one would you do?
4 and 5.
You would rather, oh, so A, so you would also rather spend $4 and have 5 less. Awesome. I was his math teacher for a time last year. That's why he picked the right one. No, there's no right one. There's no right one. Anyone want to pick B? Stephen would. Nice. Anyone C? Spend 5. Just spend the most and have the least left. Anyone?
No, I want to just spend $2 and have $6.
Nice. Is that one of the options? Spend $2 and have $6 left. Yeah. Yeah. Then you go home with more in your hand. All right. Awesome. These slides are at the start of, a lot of teachers use this as their math routines to start out their lessons. And it's so great because for a long time, math was very individual, and it was done more in isolation. And we have made a movement over the last 20 plus years to make it more social, and to have more connection and discussions around math. So slides like this really get it going. Okay, then the other thing that these slides can do, so I have downloaded these from iReady, but look what I did. Everybody see? Oh. Flor gave Ursula some money. Ursula spent $4, and she has $5 left. How much money did Flor give Ursula? So I could individualize that for my class. And actually, I really cheated because I had these slides last year, and I just changed the names from student names to board member names. So the question I'm now asking the students, what is the equation? Asking what the equation is helps them to focus on what their job is as a math student, as opposed to just reading a problem and getting through the words and everything that would be in that problem. And then a diagram, there's the money that Flor gave Ursula, the money Ursula spent, and the money Ursula has left. And you add those two together. So at the bottom, if you can't see, is where it says it. So the money Ursula spent plus the money Ursula has left is the equivalent of the money Flor gave Ursula. Assuming we have all the information in the problem and she didn't pocket some. Okay. So then there's another one. Chris put some books on a shelf. Natasha took 24 books from the shelf. There are now 38 books on the shelf. How many books are on the shelf to begin with? And in the next slide, I highlight the part I want my students to focus on. I want them to focus on some books. They were not given a specific, so that's what they're solving for. And they can show that with words. They can show that with numbers. And so then after we go through that many slides, then it would be time for students to try a few on their own. Now their workbooks have pages that go right along with these slides. They would then have independent time. And then at the end, we would come for an exit ticket. And so for the exit ticket, Patrick picks some apples. He uses 24 of the apples to make applesauce. He has 19 apples left. How many apples does Patrick pick? I tried to get everybody, but 15 would be a very lot of math questions. Okay, so now it's your turn as board members now, not as students, but what questions do you have? We can go in any order, but what questions do you have? What strikes you as significant, and how will this presentation, when it's shared to you and you can really look through it, inform your work as a school board member? So anybody have any questions while I'm up here and at the mic? Chris?
So, just kind of going back to some of the data.
Yes.
What strategies for addressing the disparities based on economic status?
So the first step is sharing the data with teachers in a way that really celebrates the success, because there is, I've said, but I'll say it again, there's a lot of success. Yeah. And so we really need to focus on looking at all of our students. We actually look at the results pretty individual first, because those are the connections teachers make. That's what they like to talk about. Then we will we'll look at the data all together with using a data protocol that asks questions. What do you notice? What is significant? And after doing it for the zoom out, so all the data maybe for their grade level, then we would hone in on looking at the data for the economic status and have, go through the same process. What do you notice? What is significant? And then what questions do you have? And sometimes we take time and we make a plan right there. Sometimes we leave some questions for us to keep talking about and solve later. Definitely for Rumney, we're new to, honestly, even knowing that iReady could go that deep and disaggregate the data that much. And so this, the data that I showed on just that piece of the economic status, that will be a surprise. So we save the surprises for when we're further down on just looking at our student results. Flor.
How does this data get collected to help professional development and the math curriculum? How does it work?
Yeah, so there's two parts. I mean, one, the great thing about having a program, besides being able to download the slides and making it really easy when the principal has to step into a math class because there's a program and it's all right there. The other piece is it comes with professional development on using the program, on some of the data of the program like MyPath and the usage. But individual professional learning, really, in my mind, it comes from the team discussions. And when we look at something like the disaggregated data and there's a question and the team working together doesn't have an answer, that inspires a teacher to want to have professional development on that area. And they likely will ask questions. Why is it that a student in my class or in the school would have a difference in their math score based on their economics as opposed to any other factor? They'll start having those conversations. Did I answer the question? And we connect with Jen on that as well and share some of that data with her. Patrick.
You said that some students score better on the test on the same information on the paper versus on the
Yes.
computer, and that's understandable given learning styles and stuff. What do you do with that information? Now you know that. What's the kind of next step for either those students that perform differently, or knowing that the classroom has this sort of bifurcation of performance based on the?
Yeah. So often when we first notice a student who's maybe rushing online or tends to do better on paper, that's our first clue and our first go-to, and we'll start to give the pencil paper quizzes. We'll start to do the assessments, and often there are other pieces that we want to tease out. So then we might start tweaking some of their quizzes to remove other variables. So we, like, for example, second grade in particular, it can be really word heavy for the grade level, the developmental level. And so if there's a problem that's very intense in vocabulary and a student is not performing on that, we might tease out some of those math words to see if they have the math skill. All students do end up back online and doing the online assessment. MyPath is a great way to bridge them from pen and paper to online. And the diagnostic assessment, I think, has to be online. Is that right, Jen? So they always have some results that are online, but the more we do like pen and paper to understand if they learned a lesson or a unit, the more we know how to build up their supports or individualize their instruction. That's really what the pen and paper quizzes are for. Chris.
Is there any sense that students are learning that and they're better using the concrete examples of Patrick's apples and then doing that calculation as opposed to just saying on paper and seeing the numbers? Is there a sense that that real life application of math helps them?
It's the progression of learning, so it goes from concrete to that. See, I had dairy today, so now my brain is going to be a little slower. So concrete, and then
pictorial or representative.
Did you hear that? And then you get, so they do start out with the concrete example. So having them use hands-on tools like Cuisinart rods, which each rod represents a number, having them do play with the materials, that's always the first step, and then you move, the last step is pictorial.
The next one would be, yes, to represent more abstractly on paper. So instead of maybe having counters, they might draw circles on paper to represent something. And then they move to the abstract.
Yeah, but the first way you phrased it, I thought you were going to say, is it easier? And actually, there are students who would prefer just the procedure.
Oh,
And so we do have to shift, even in second grade and all grade levels, they can be very much procedurally, that's how they learn, that's what they know. However, when we focused only on procedure, when students were in 8th or 9th grade and doing algebra, they struggled because they could do so much in their head until you get to everything is a variable. And if you can't do that, then you don't actually know the math rule. You only knew, you were very good at figuring out the math patterns or how numbers go together. Your number sense was super strong, but your understanding of the math concept wasn't. And eventually, I try to tell students, they don't believe me in 7th grade math. It does catch up with students if they only know the procedure. And so my go-to as a new to math teacher, I hadn't taught math since 2004, I really wanted to have my students do more procedures because then I would just know if they were struggling with math. And it really took some team discussions to say, actually there's a reason and the program is smarter than you. So, Zach.
Building on that a little bit, I know that sort of, the way we teach math has changed a lot since probably most of us were in school. It's gotten much more conceptually deep. To what level do we have professional development? Do we need professional development on some of the deeper underlying concepts as we start to teach things like, how multiplication computes or sort of the root, basic number theory and those kinds of things, hidden in this stuff?
I think, and jump in, Jen, if I say something inaccurate. I feel like that is that differs by school. So what I would answer for Rumney might be different for the district. So Rumney has teachers that are the most veteran staff-wide compared to other schools in elementary school. Not that we have the most veteran teachers, but our staff, like our newest teacher, had 6 years teaching experience. So teachers who've been here a while, they went through a lot of math professional development, and they had Mahesh Sharma come. Mahesh Sharma was a math expert who really focuses in and takes you back to how much, he builds from how much you know and builds you on forward to understand the basic math concepts and take you all the way to the hardest concept, which in my opinion is dividing fractions. And so our teachers really are very confident in math because they all had that professional development, because they have teammates who they can lean on who have that. New teachers coming in and having the new teacher training is a way to help. Jen, do you have anything else to add?
I would add too, we continuously have professional development related to the program and understanding the data. Embedded in the use of the program and even the teacher toolkit and the teacher manual is some understanding. It is not the same as doing an intensive week like we used to sponsor years ago around that. But between what the structures and the supports that we have and the colleagues that we have in this district who are deeply skilled and knowledgeable, I feel like we're okay.
And the teacher coaches really help with that. And having math interventionists at each school. I feel like all schools have the supports they need to bring that forward. So, yeah. Any, what strikes you as significant? I forgot to mention, and nobody asked, but I'll say, Berlin was able to go more specific with some of their data into specific grade levels. Our N size, our smallest class is 10, so if we went into specific grades and broke them out, it would be identifiable. So that's why you saw different data for them. Anything significant? Patrick?
Certainly the economic disparities are significant, and just to follow up on that,
Can you speak up?
Yeah. Is there so the economic disparity is significant, but is there also a gender disparity? We've seen that in other.
That was in the slide before, not as significant. Some schools that is a more significant factor. That wasn't very significant for Roman.
Yes.
It looked like there was a difference.
Not as, I would say not as significant. The most significant was the economics.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
What's the levels? What's the level of income that we're looking at for the economic data? So
That's a great question.
Under 50,000 family income, under 75, 100, something like that.
Do you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, well, there is a little bit of a difference, but it's those, we identify that through the families who qualify for free and reduced lunches, is the delineation for that, and there are some, yeah.
Direct certification from the state of Vermont.
Yeah. What?
The direct certification list from the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
Just so, how would you get, do you still get that even though by state law we have?
Yes. So the question was, do we still get those numbers even though we provide universal meals? Yes, we do still get through direct certification through the state and through families that qualify for free and reduced lunch. We still get those numbers. Yep.
Ursula?
Even though it was on a slide that we struggled to read, where you broke it out by class, I spied I don't know the word I want to use, but the fourth grade, which we've identified district-wide, and even at Berlin, we brought it up, the fourth grade class is seeing some difficulties, perhaps.
I think the slide that had the classes was the MyPath usage. Was there another one?
There was the
Oh, the growth. Yes. Okay, sorry. You were right. Thank you. Any ideas of how this presentation will inform your work as a board? Other than approving the budget line for iReady?
Yeah.
All right, that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry it was clunky, but thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
This mic is now off.
Okay,
Is
yeah.
there a way for us to share that mic so people?
Yeah, maybe people can go up if they have a particular question, but
We don't have
yeah.
a wireless. and
There's
so,
not a
yeah,
wireless.
And
Yeah.
the cord, I can get it on that side.
Okay, again, apologies to everybody online. I know that hearing is not the best. We now are going to move to community feedback. If you were able to hear the presentation and you have questions about the presentation, this is your time, whether you are here in person or online. Please raise your hand. And that is the math presentation that we just had. Okay. I don't hear. Okay. I don't see any hands here or online. So we're going to move into our board operations part of tonight. We have the U32 Student Council with us.
Yes.
Where are they? Amy's getting them. So while we get that going, if board members haven't been able to grab food or drink, please feel free to do that now. They should be here in a couple of minutes. And we'll figure out a way for you guys to be able to hear them. I might have we have the mic. Okay, I'm gonna, and I might turn my camera around so that they can maybe see them. I'm gonna.
I can turn mine on and turn it around.
Oh no, because yeah, you can do the camera. Yeah.
going to have to use the mic. Yes, please.
There. Yeah.
It's
Welcome.
And Cal, if you guys, Elise, if you guys can remember to talk right into the mic. Yeah, right into the mic. So you're going to have to
Turn
trade
my
off.
camera up so you can see them bigger. Yeah.
It'll depend on what they say.
Okay. Welcome. You can get started anytime you want. We're so happy to have you here. Please, like I said, Elise on the phone, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the Student Council too. And the floor is yours.
Of course. Hi, my name is Elise O'Brien. I am a representative of the sophomore class at U32, and I live in the town of East Montpelier. I helped found the council and have been on it ever since.
Hello, my name is John Stafford, and I'm a representative of the junior class at U32, and I live in Berlin. I've been on the student council for the past 2 years.
Hello, my name is Callister Boyd. I'm a senior at U32 High School, and I'm from the town of East Montpelier. And I helped found the council, and I've been on it ever since.
Good evening. This is our third year as an established student council, which was a student-led initiative from the Changemaker class. Every year, up to 3 people in each grade are elected onto the council for 1 year with both a middle school and high school staff advisor. While on the council, we work together on projects to improve life in our school and our community. This year, we began a partnership with Up for Learning Vermont, which gave us the opportunity to learn new ways of lifting up student voice and leadership at U32. They have supported us in many ways and in many projects this year, including the one that we will be telling you about today.
Hello, everyone. I stand before you today, joined by 2 of my fellow council members on behalf of the students of U32 High School. After the unfortunate failure of last year's budget and the profound impact it had on our school, the U32 student body has taken an increased interest in our district's budget and the process through which it is passed. To this end, the Student Council has interviewed a number of teachers, nurses, special educators, interventionists, and administrative staff to learn more about what the upcoming budget changes will mean at every level of our community. Additionally, we've also tabled at school lunches and held well-attended forums during our callback periods to not only collect data from over 100 students across 6 grades, but also educate the student body and make them aware of how the budget works and how things in the budget will affect them. Through these means, we've compiled a significant quantity of data directly from students with the goal of establishing increased transparency and student input in the budgeting process. At the end of the day, it is students who feel the most direct results of this board's decisions, and so it's only fit that student voices are the loudest in the room.
During our callback focus groups, one question asked of students was, how can the board better communicate with U32 students and families? There was one common thread in every answer, and that was more accessible information. Students want to hear what is happening on their school board and be a part of those decisions, especially when the decisions directly affect them, like a budget. As student council members, we appreciate the transparency given by having the notes on the U32 website and meetings open, but to most students, this is not very accessible. When they look at long documents of information written in languages they aren't used to, it's hard for them to understand what's really happening. Students want information on the budget and other school board happenings talked about in schools regularly and fed to students rather than having to seek it out. They also want to learn why the specific budget cuts are being made and be a part of that decision. We need more education on what goes into choosing the proposed cuts, how taxes affect them, and the process of creating a proposed budget. Once students have more of an understanding of why these cuts are happening, they will be able to have more thoughtful and informed discussions around it and give more relevant feedback to be taken into consideration. On a more regular basis, achieving this transparency and collaboration can be done through surveys, emails, TA handouts, or any other way of information sharing, as long as it is written in an understandable language or tailored to students. But students also want to hear this information from you. They want school board members to educate them in their classrooms to hear presentations straight from the source. They want to be informed about what is going on and contribute to the conversation. The conversations around budget cuts and anything else that affects them directly should be held with students and school community during the process, not after. The most important idea to take away from this is that students want inclusion in the process of decision-making and information given to them consistently. When students and adults in leadership positions can collaborate on big decisions, the outcome will be better for everyone involved.
We also came here to voice our opinion moving forward about the upcoming school year and the potential impact of the future budget decisions on our education and the well-being of our school community. As students, we are deeply invested in our future, and after the events of last year regarding the budget, students have communicated to us that they'd like to have access to a variety of different classes. One major concern surrounding budget cuts is the loss of personalized education programs. Specifically, we are concerned about the potential reduction in advanced and elective courses that help students develop a range of skills, interests, and talents. The possible cutting of personalized learning programs is especially troubling as they offer vital support to help all students succeed regardless of their individual needs.
Addressing another section of our research, throughout the course of our data collection, one question that elicited particularly passionate responses was that of what should be protected or prioritized in a healthy budget. Overwhelmingly, the responses from students pertain to services that improve their quality of life and academic outcomes. Student wellness services, we'll call them. Services like nursing staff or substance abuse counselors. Services that are sometimes overlooked, and in this draft of the budget in particular, seem to be considered secondary to teaching and administrative staff. Another service that was often mentioned in both our interviews and forums is special education. Despite the importance of special education, many staff members are afraid that our programs may experience funding issues over the next few years, and the Student Council shares this concern. To be clear, what we want here is for students to continue to have regular and consistent access to services like nursing staff, substance abuse counselors, and special education far, far into the future. That way, our schools can continue to meet the immediate needs of students and therefore give them more time and energy to put into classroom learning. If these types of services continue to be cut, our concern is that classroom learning will not only be less effective, but any remaining staff in these cut departments will be seriously overworked, further reducing their efficiency and the number of positive student outcomes. To put it simply, this is an issue of equity. All students should be able to access all of these services, regardless of their identity or grade.
We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and the voices of the U32 students. We believe student voice and opinion is a staple in any school, and when given the opportunity, many students in our schools jump at the opportunity to help improve and build our community. Thank you for listening to our input. We look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
And actually, I'd like to finish up on a bit of a personal note here today, because I'm here before you not only as a student council member, but also as a senior, soon to graduate. It is my firm belief that I'd not be here today before you if I did not have access to these services, nor would I be able to wear this shirt that I have on today. Everything I am and everything I have done at this school for the past 6 years has been thanks to regular and consistent access to these services. Furthermore, over the course of my 6 years, I've been able to access tons of other unique opportunities through the school, from band to theater to football. I mean, heck, I even went to Germany last spring with the Model UN team. Cumulatively, these experiences have had a huge influence on my life and education, and they represent the most spectacular thing about U32, I think, which is that there's lots of options for everyone. And this isn't just about me either. I have 2 siblings in the district, as well as a peer mentor, and many friends who are younger than me, 2 of which are standing behind me today. I wouldn't want any of them or anyone else to have access to any less than I did during my time at this school.
Now we'd like to take the opportunity to see if you guys have any questions for us about student council in general, the process, or the results we got.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I have a question. I really like your idea of better communicating with the student population. Do you have any other ideas of how we can do that? Your point about language is really good. Coming to classrooms, are there other places where we could put information that would be easier for students to find?
Yeah, so I think a big piece of that is having you guys come in and talk to students on a regular basis. I think it's more understandable when it can come from the source of the people making those decisions. I also think having discussions in TA is really helpful. So if you were to send things out to TA to talk about, do you guys have anything else?
Yeah. I'd like to echo Elisa's sentiment. I mean, the quickest way to get the word out is students. Students talk to each other every day, so talking to students is naturally the fastest and easiest way to keep us more informed and in the loop.
Thank you.
Yes?
So as this one of the student representatives here on the school board, do you think that me and my fellow student representative, Linnea, could do something to kind of be a liaison point between the board and the students, seeing that we are supposed to be student representatives?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're in the perfect position to fill that kind of role and sort of carry out that type of thing. So, yeah.
And how would you, and what kind of suggestion would either of you three give for us to best carry that out?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, things like talking to TAs, as well as just making general announcements, really the most important thing, and even just you two as individuals, just talking to people about what's going on the board more often could go a huge way to help sort of get the word out and get people more educated. Did you two have any? Yeah.
Yeah, also back to the presentations directly from board members. That would be great coming from you on a more regular basis too, because you're in the building more often. So that could definitely be something that would be good.
And then I'd also just lastly like to say, as a student, particularly speaking in your case, I have a feeling that a lot of students are more willing to listen to someone if it's coming from someone their own age. So, like someone in your position or Linnea, I feel like you guys have really a lot of power and influence that you could use to help get that information out to students across our community.
Have you thought at all about leveraging the power of social media to get information to students?
Yeah, that's something that honestly the student council is working on this year just for ourselves. And absolutely, social media is a very powerful tool, especially when it comes to getting information out to the student body. So that's for sure something that we and the board, I think, should use sort of for that purpose, because, yeah, absolutely.
Because that comes to students directly. They don't have to seek it out. Like going to the website, trying to read notes that are inaccessible to you. I mean, they're accessible, but not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and as someone who runs the student council Instagram account, we would be happy to help with that too. If you guys had information you wanted us to get out quickly, we could definitely help with that.
As we think about sort of some of the things you said about communication, I mean, honestly, some of these things are challenges communicating to adults as well. As we think about like how the complexity of the tax system, sort of how that translates into then what goes on in the buildings.
But sort of recognizing that, students and adults may need different starting points, what do you think is sort of the starting point that students need, when we think about, what to try to make more accessible?
I mean, just what immediately came to mind is we have a lot of great business classes and teachers at U32. Incorporating more of that would be great. Also, I mean, back to the presentations, if you guys could come and talk about what the process has looked like specifically for you, I think that would be very informative.
Yeah, just adding on, I think it really comes down to education. My dream would be that if you asked any student at U32 something about the budget, they would be educated enough to answer that question at a base level. They would know where the money comes from, where the money goes to, how those decisions are made.
Thank you.
And then also going back to the idea of actually communicating those ideas, one idea that initially came to my mind was every Wednesday we have 30 minutes in the morning where we remain with our TAs. And that time is usually used to sign up for callback, but it could also be used to inform students and also teachers about what's going on with the school board in that current moment. And it would make it so everyone would have access to that information automatically. There's still more information that they can find, but they kind of get like a base layer of information, so at least they know what's happening already.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are,
I just want to thank you so much for coming tonight. It is so wonderful to hear students' voices. It really, really is. And I think about communication kind of as a two-way piece. And I'm curious if you have plans to continue this communication with the board, either in this way or in a different way, because I think as we move through these processes that are really complex, your voice is really, really important. And I just appreciate what you guys have shared, and I'm hoping and asking if there's future plans for continued communication directly with the board.
Yeah, I mean, I was even talking just to Floor about how we can stay more connected. And I think we were touching on earlier about being kind of liaisons along with the student school board members. If there ever, from you guys, comes a thing where you want student feedback or help from the students, we would love to help with that. And then going the other way too, if we have something we want to bring to you guys, we'd love to do like another thing like this or meet with people individually.
So we talked today, just Chris, 1 second. We talked today about maybe them coming in October or coming in November. So we called today a reflection because they understand that we are in the process of approving a budget next week. So it's a reflection, and we want this to start sooner. And then I had a question back to you guys. Last year, our student reps help us, and especially looking at our senior, is making sure that seniors get registered to vote. And you guys are also citizens, right? So you vote in the budget. So that is one thing that we can use your help, and there's resources for that and people that are willing to help and come to school. But you are the best at getting that word out too. So a lot of you guys are on vacation that day, so making sure that your peers are voting on the budget that directly affects you too.
And I know did you?
No, go ahead.
I was, so we were talking within student council a little bit too about how if students get more involved in the budget and things like that, it would hopefully have a positive impact on the amount of people coming out to vote in families. So we think it would be a really nice kind of chain reaction.
So now I have the question. How many are on the student council? How many students? Is it 3 per 6th grade?
Yeah. 12 currently.
12, okay. So part of the two-way street of communication is for you folks to invite us pointedly, not say, oh, if you can, like set up a time, say, we're going to be here at this time, send 2 representatives, we have some questions. And, that's a directed, and if we don't show up, you have us to blame, but the invitation is there, but that puts the onus on you too. To say, these are our questions, please come and have a discussion with us. Whether it be at a TA, and I think the TAs, aren't they there are multiple TAs, like for every?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. What would be a more, concentrated time of coming and talking with students as a whole? Like, would it be a student council meeting? Or TAs, I think TAs are pretty intimate, which is a good thing. But, challenge us to say, these are our questions, this is the day 2 of you show up. And we won't be offended. And you shouldn't be worried about it either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the first time that we've done this, but this certainly will not be the last time that you see any of us or other members of the student body. I think this is going to continue to be a thing.
Good. Yeah.
It's C. McVeigh@u32.org.
Use that email, it won't get to me.
But I would also say that the superintendent's office as well, right?
Yeah.
So reaching out to me to make sure that, we have regular communications. I know I've done stuff with the Chronicle, but I can also do stuff with you guys as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here tonight sort of setting up that network, getting things moving.
Well, like I said to Elisa today, it was just, this is why we're here. So we're so happy that you came to see us, because we are all here because of you, the students. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
That's my standing ovation.
I'm so impressed with all the research that you all did in talking to everybody. It's really just amazing. And I was wondering, you shared some broad strokes, but is it in a form where you could share more with us? And if not, that's okay too. I know there's confidentiality and stuff, but if it's something that you've worked to kind of summarize, we would really love to have that and to take that forward with us.
Yeah, so when we collected research, it wasn't as concrete, well, it was concrete research, but it was kind of, our notes were a little bit messy. But if we could definitely, like, in the future, when we collect research, have a more uniform way of taking that research, and then we can definitely share that with you guys. Because, like, gathering that research, I feel like that kind of really opened our eyes to how many students really do actually care about what's going on within their school. And a lot of people, like, afterwards, I talked to them and they said, like, if there's anything else that they could share an opinion on, they would be glad to do it. So.
That's great. That's also part of what I do outside of school board work. So I'm Keely. If you need help, like putting together something that's more easily reported back on, then reach out to me.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I would say that if that was something you guys wanted, like the specific data we collected, I'm sure we could take our notes and kind of make them more cohesive for you guys.
Yeah, even if you could just do like a general summary, I don't want to I've gone through messy data before, and it's sometimes not worth it. But yeah, if you guys could put together whatever you think is feasible, I know that we would all really appreciate it. And I'm just so grateful that you guys went out into your community to help that. It's really awesome.
Well, thank you. Oh,
Hi, I'm Julia Pritchard. I'm the Director of Student Support Services for the district, and I'm particularly interested in the information students have shared with you related to concerns about potential changes in the future about special education. I wonder if it'd be okay if I sent an email to Jade and a couple of representatives from the student council be willing to meet with me and share what you've learned and what's on your mind about that. That would be so great. Yeah. Okay. And is it sending an email to you the best way to initiate that? Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I'll pass it to you.
What's that?
I'll pass it to them.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I should reach out to them directly or to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
What's your Instagram?
U32 Student Council.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Thank you. I'm going to follow you.
Okay, we're gonna move into the next part of our operations and pass this along that way. So we're gonna approved, it's not really approved, we're just affirming in some ways the tuition for, as we heard a presentation last week from, not last week, almost 2 weeks ago, from the Career Center, and we can wait for the approval of the budget. We did this last year too, so we just approved the tuition for our district. There's a little memo going to you. I don't know, is Suzanne online? In case
No, she couldn't be here.
Okay.
But I can answer a couple of questions
Yes.
if we have.
And there's a recommended board action at the bottom of it. I'll give you a few minutes to read it. Okay, everybody ready? And maybe we can put a motion on the table and then we can discuss. Is that okay? There's a recommended board action at the bottom of the page, if somebody would be willing. Okay, go ahead, Seth.
I move the board announce the FY25-26 district tuition rates as $25,626 for elementary tuition and $24,728 for secondary tuition.
Second. Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions? We have Stephen here to answer our questions.
I can answer some of the questions. Suzanne could not be here. She sends her well wishes. She's attending a basketball game for her son, which we encourage greatly.
What's that?
These numbers are based on the current presented budget.
Correct.
If something were to change, if we've announced these tuition numbers, are they flexible? Like, can they change based on?
The tuition numbers will change if our budget changes. And a good example of that is the FY25 projections that we have there were based upon our first budget, but they were revised and they're still in revision actually. And so the actual tuition that we charged for this budget cycle is going to be revised based upon the budget that was passed in the second vote. And so that is another reason why there's a big difference between the tuitions there, is this was based upon our first budget vote for the 25 budget. And so there were changes to that budget as well. So that came down with the second budget vote.
So with that, can we vote on a specific number, or do we have to have a provision in there, say, subject to future change if necessary?
You can do it based on the projections. So the board is more affirming this than approving it.
Oh, okay.
It would be
Just
my,
affirming.
Okay.
yeah, there's nothing in statute that says the board has to approve this. It gets adjusted, but But this just gives us a way to announce our tuition.
Okay.
to others,
To others.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll be reviewing the warning today, but we're not voting on the budget. We're just reviewing what we're going to be approving at the next board meeting.
There's a whole process that reconciles the tuition payments over the course of a couple of years, actually, so that if we were to announce one that's too high, it would get adjusted. Towns who paid us or individuals who paid us there's a reimbursement for the towns that would occur. So there's money that still slides around between sending towns and us over the course of even a couple of years as these things get adjusted, because audits have something to do with it as well. It's all that process.
So I'm not seeing other hands. All those in favor of the motion as read by Zach and second by Michelle, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And Natasha, I can't quite hear you, but I'm assuming you were an aye. I know you're online.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, good.
Got it.
Got it. All right.
Thank you.
So, unanimous approval. We don't have the tuition for the other two career centers, I think, for my superintendent. So we're gonna, again, that is just affirming. We heard what the tuition for the Central Vermont Career Center was last week. And that's where most of our kids go.
We actually send students to more than just that career center. So we want to make sure that we have all those, when we come to the final budget approval, we'll have those tuitions for you at that point in time. We don't set those are set for us.
And I know you guys have been sitting for a long time, but we're gonna go through this and then I'll give you guys a break. The configuration committee, next steps and board appointments. The next step is for the board to appoint its members and for the administration to appoint the principal that would be serving on the committee. So I've asked every group, every town to select on their own, so it's up to you guys to select. So I'm just gonna try to go in order because Callis is sitting there. Could you, tell me? I know you represent everybody, but who's gonna serve in the configuration committee from Callis?
I'd like to serve.
Okay, so Daniel will serve. Worcester.
I'll serve.
Julia is gonna serve. Middlesex.
Chris is gonna serve.
Chris is going to serve. Berlin, Keely is going to serve. Okay. East Montpelier, I talked to both. I'm going to serve for East Montpelier. And did I miss?
No, that's all.
Okay. So I would like a formal motion. Is that okay with you guys? And I'm going to add, we have our superintendent, Stephen Delaner Pay, our principal for the high school.
High school.
And the elementary principal is going to be?
The elementary principal will be Gillian, will be serving as our representative from administration.
What was the high school one? Sorry.
It's Becca.
The principal.
Yeah, the way it was configured, that high school principal was one of them, so that really narrows it down. As I learned last year. Superintendent also narrows it down too. So, yeah.
Okay.
Did we talk at some point about there being a student representative or no? Inspired by the student council.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we build into the committee
Work
communication?
to have a student, to have
Get
students
student input.
input into that.
We can work on that.
Late, yeah.
No,
Yes, yeah. And part of the reason the student council was here too was like they want to inform the work of the configuration committee.
Yeah,
So
they
they're
really
going to
do
stay
everything.
involved in the configuration committee. Yeah, in providing research, right? Or agreed upon facts to the configuration committee from their perspective. Yeah, well,
We'll work with them.
We'll work with them on that data. So could somebody be willing to make a motion to appoint Daniel, Julia, Chris, Keely, and Flor,
So moved?
and Stephen, Gillian, and Becca?
So moved.
So thank you, Patrick. second by...
Ursula second.
Oh, okay.
She was at an auction and just went like this.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so, by Ursula.
Ursula.
So the next steps is Doodle Poll will be going out tomorrow morning to get that first meeting. That first meeting going, we already have kind of like a little bit of a backwards planning of the information, the agreed upon criteria that the board agreed on and the configuration committee agreed up at the last time. But it would be up to the configuration committee on the next steps of moving forward. We will be informing the board as that moves along, with the same idea that we would have to be making decisions similarly as we tried last year, right? So we would be having to have a pretty not rapid, but we have to mobilize, right? Like the idea would be that we would be able to have something by the end of next fall, right? So when we get into budgeting season next year, we would know what we were looking at. You know, we might not have voted on what that looks like, whatever that is, but we would have to have a plan. So it's not, you know, just trying to make it clear that, you know, there's work ahead and that it's not rushed because we have a plan, right? Like this is what we were all agreed on and we will be making decisions next fall. That make sense? Okay. Anything else that I'm forgetting? No? Okay. So I moved away. The budget warning that is on page 4. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review it. We're going back to the old format as it was required by the legislature at the last session. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Article 6 is the language that we had prior that had changed last year, and now it's back by statute. And the thing to note about that is it is based on the per pupil spending. And so once we have the final number set, we'll fill in the blanks there on Article 6. That will tell us per pupil dollars and that percent increase or decrease from this year's budget to next year's budget. It's an increase. I can kind of give you that little hint, but that is what is on the ballot, is that percent increase in dollar amount. And so that'll be different for voters than last year.
And that's actually per pupil, not per long-term.
Correct. That is that
So
there.
you take
It's
the formula to divide by number of actual
I will have to double check exactly which number they use for that calculation.
The per pupil is the ADM. Yeah.
I'll make sure that we know which number we're using for that calculation, or it's Zach knows.
I think the long-term weighted average is the number that determines the tax rate.
The tax rate, yes.
So I'm 99% sure that that is the number that goes on. It would be completely illogical to put on a number that has nothing to do with the tax rate at all.
I completely agree. That is the number that we would be.
I want to confirm it, but that would be my guess as well.
Do I recall that that had been required by statute and was no longer required by statute to include in the warning?
Correct.
Last year, by statute, didn't have to be included. They had different language, and they changed that back.
And this is now statute. This is what is statutorily required.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, they went back.
I guess I would push back on Zach's comment that something that is illogical might not be statutorily required.
I will concede the point. I still think I remember that, but I think it's worth checking, but I'm quite sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we've been explaining it. Yeah. Okay. And Michelle, yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring to the board, I'd like to see another article added on here to extend the terms of the clerk and the treasurer. They have to get a 60 signature petition for every single year they're here. And under statute 16, section 735C, it says that that the voters, and this would be for the 26, 27 year, because we can't do that now. but we need to vote, so that way there next year they could run their petition to be for 3 years. That they can, the voters can extend the length up to 3 years. And it just, I mean, 60 signatures is a lot. We struggled to get a clerk. You know, we had a treasurer who will retire soon, I'm sure. And I just think it may be more enticing to people, so they're not having to do that every year. Some of us struggle to get 30 signatures on our own petition, forget 60.
So Michelle approached me yesterday, and what I said to her is like, you know, bring it to the board.
Yeah.
I don't see any problem with it. We would have an Article 9 added to shall the board. So we would have language for you ready for at our next board meeting to approve, to extend the, so we will keep, so what you see in Article 4 will stay as it is, and then we would have an extra question as Article 9 to ask this particular question to the voters, and then once approved, that will change number 4.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, we did that, the
Yeah.
town clerk in Middlesex a couple of years ago went to a 3-year term
Yeah.
for just that reason.
Most town clerks are 3-year terms.
Yeah.
Things
And-
like that.
Yeah. Daniel?
I'm just curious about the time commitment of the district clerk, and curious if this is a fair compensation for the level of effort put into the job for that position.
We increased that from what it was before, but it is still not, you know, I don't know that it's still not significant. You know, both Rosie and Melissa are not here with us today to, you know, it all concentrates on that voting time to try to collate all the ballots and do that. That's where it's most intense around the voting for the budget. So there's a lot of logistics. So there's no reason for us not to. We have a hard time as it is right now. We've had approached 2 separate people, and none of them they have expressed interest, but none of them have actually collected signatures to be our district clerk. So at the moment, if we don't find somebody before the end of January, we'll be looking at appointing a clerk.
Yeah, we don't have to vote on this morning tonight, we're just reviewing it, correct? Right?
We're just reviewing.
Could we before we do approve an official warning, maybe request a brief reflection by Melissa on what goes into the clerk position, and in terms of try to quantify it as best as possible?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, can I just clarify, just so I know, are we talking about extending the terms of the clerk, the treasurer, and the moderator? Or
No,
just the clerk and the
Just the clerk
treasurer?
and the treasurer.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted,
Clerk
We don't have a moderator?
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, just the clerk and the.
So as we work on the language.
Yeah, the clerk and the treasurer.
Thank you.
I have a question about Article 4.
Yes.
Paperwork I had signed for Middlesex seat was a 2-year of a 3-year term. Are we sure that it's a 1 year of a 3-year term for the Middlesex second seat?
We can look at that.
We can look at that.
You signed
yeah.
paperwork for what?
So I just handed in my petition this morning for the second Middlesex seat for 2 years of a 3-year term. So I just figured
Yeah,
out
we'll
whatever.
double check,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Isn't this your second year, Patrick, or is that extending? This is your first year? Yeah, so it should be a 2, yeah. All right. Okay, so this is, we don't need a motion for this, this was just for discussion and
For this
revision
purpose.
for this purpose, yeah.
You know, do we always use the word estimates in this language on Article 6?
Can't hear you, Chris.
That we estimate that the proposed budget, if approved, will result in a per pupil of a certain percentage. Is it always estimates?
That's the statutory
That's the
language.
statute. That is, okay.
That's the verbatim.
Repeat your question first.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we use the word estimates? Because it seems like something that you could be certain about because of the budget amount. And it's just something I think someone would say, well, you can't just say estimates? What does that mean? Why don't you know?
It's,
Isn't it because our per pupil numbers aren't known until,
Well, I'm just,
it's actually the verbatim statute language.
so maybe we should have an explanation, say, we don't, because someone still look at the estimates and say, you're asking for a certain amount of money, and that should be able to tell you what the percentage increase is going to be, and how that compares, rather than estimating it. Just calculation.
perhaps that's something that we can cover when we are presenting
Yeah, we
budget
should cover it when
information.
we're presenting.
When we are, selling
Yeah.
our budget to our
About-
community, we explain why it's an estimate
It's estimates,
versus.
okay. Yep.
Okay. So then we're going to move into the annual report format. I think most of you are familiar with the format that we've been using for some years right now, and we made it even more basic in the past 3 years. So we're going to stay with the same format, and we're sending a postcard once we approve the budget.
I would just add for new board members, this is the annual report that we distribute during the,
I should have
this
one
time of
with
year.
me.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
have.
but they're all both, you've seen the annual report is
But just
so it's the
verbatim.
booklet that you received with the pictures, letters from each of your principals and information from each of our schools, and then each town also puts a little bit on their town report. So that's what we're talking about. And then we send a postcard because we don't send a report to every household anymore. They can access that online, and when they request it, one is mailed to them, and we have them accessible at each of our town offices too. So we're going to stay with that same format for this year. Okay. Then.
Can we go back real quick to the board? I know we're not approving it, but the C in my name is lowercase.
Sorry.
In the signatures?
I just might forget to say it next time, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the last name. Check your names.
First, I spelled correctly, so thank you.
That's a hard one.
Got it.
If we want to communicate differently, or if we want to have a different kind of emphasis on the selling or communicating the importance of voting on the budget, is this the time when we would hash that out, or is that going to be an open conversation between now and?
That would be an open conversation. We are going to approve the budget, and then we move right into selling the budget. Not selling is not the right word, but it's just sharing the budget, because we're not selling it. We are sharing the budget and making sure that the electorate is informed and can make an informed decision on the budget.
So we're not hamstrung by this conversation. We're not going to send the whole booklet to everybody because we see that as a waste of money or a waste of paper, or.
Well, it's very expensive to send one to every household, and the feedback that we got from all of the community members, it was that it felt wasteful from the district, and it also is not just printing it; it's mailing it. So we can do a trifold or a postcard, and that's what we've been working on. So the trifold has a little bit of that information. That's a lot cheaper to send to everybody, and then a lot of people also don't want to be wasting paper, and we shouldn't be, and that's input that we got from our students that were sitting before in our board too. So it's a happy medium is that it is available to be mailed. If you request it, you can pick it up. So we do print, and most years, I'm looking at, well, Melissa's not here, but central office, most years we still have quite a bit left because we print enough, because we also use that as a PR for our district, right?
Yep. Okay.
So that's why. Any other questions on that?
No, but can I go back just one step?
Yes.
To the compensation for all people. I just want to say this because it was such a nice comment from a community member who was looking at the packet and said that they thought that the compensation you get for is far too low for the amount of work that you do. So I'm not sure I'm advocating to up our salaries here, but I just wanted to say that publicly because it was a nice thing to hear from a fellow Worcester resident. they recognize that, so.
Thank you.
Accept that.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. And let's move into the superintendent evaluation. We reviewed the reason you don't have anything in your packet is that we review our latest, the goals by our superintendent, but to get us on schedule. So what we talked about with Stephen is like that we would be rehiring the Vermont School Boards Association for doing the evaluation this year to stay impartial and to get us, which is the same thing that we did when Jen started as superintendent. So we will be, and what? And Megan. Yeah, so we would be using their services and they would be sending the survey out, helping us compile. We have a lot all in our plates. We don't want to lose one of the more important things, the most important thing that we do, which is evaluate our superintendent. I will help with the new board members in some education of how we do that. The first meeting would be with the steering committee, and then we're moving that quickly because we want to have the survey go out to everybody by the end of January or the beginning of February, right? We are, and Stephen and I talked about this, we are a little behind of where we would traditionally be because he started in July and we usually start to set the goals in May or June because it's in the 2-year flow or 3-year flow, right? And that's how we did it with Megan. So because we're starting now anew, I think it would be, if the board is okay with that, we're going to sign the contract with them to get that started as soon as possible. And you will just be authorizing. You can authorize, I would love a motion to authorize the chair to sign the contract with Vermont School Boards Association.
Just how much?
And I can talk to $1,500.
$1,500.
Yeah,
okay.
and that includes, so the process, most of you are not familiar, and some of you are fully familiar with the process, so I'm just going to pass this along. And so it talks about the scope. There's some things that we are further ahead than. So the purpose, of course, is to provide they provide evaluation services for us. It helps us set the goals. We're at a different point this year too because we also have a strategic plan, and Stephen had set the goals towards the strategic plan. So it's changing a little bit from the past 2 years for those of you who have been in the board before. The scope of services is in the second part. They will provide the summary, conduct a review, and the feedback. I don't need to read it for you. It's a very minimum fee for the amount of work that they do, and it's basically a service because we are already members of the Vermont School Boards Association. And I can't think of a more important thing that we do. Obviously, we can end the contract at any time, and we just pay hourly for the hours that we would have used. But this is an important thing, and we have a lot of things in the air. We have the configuration committee, we have the budget going on, and we don't want to lose track. We want to set a fair process and an impartial process for Stephen.
Speak for one evaluation or 1 year, or what's the?
This is a 1 year, but what happens is once we do this, we wouldn't need to do it again the next year or the following year. We usually do it when we start anew with the superintendent. We're hoping that Stephen is going to stay for a long time.
See how it goes. Great, thank you.
I move that we authorize Floor to sign the agreement to use the SBA in our superintendent evaluation.
Thank you, Ursula. Second by Michelle. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Yay. Okay. Do you guys need a break, or should we keep going? We have very little left. I know, I'm just conscious of not everybody can sit for a real long time. Okay. All right. So, approve new teachers. There's 9. Yeah, so And then we need to approve our minutes of our last meeting on the 18th.
I move that we approve the minutes for December 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Ursula. Second?
Second.
By Patrick. Any amendments to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The motion carries. Thank you, Natasha. I could hear you. All right. Future agenda items. There were actually two here, and you will see it in the next one is board evaluation, and then the steering committee will meet next Wednesday, and we would go over the two items that were brought up at the last meeting, and to have that conversation too. They didn't make it to this future agenda items. Okay.
Daniel.
Daniel.
I just wanted to make sure that when the time came, or when it's appropriate to, at our earliest convenience, we add the subject of the EV charger policy.
Yeah, we added that to our finance committee. To our finance committee is what my email said. So that's because we thought that's where it needed to go first, and then we'll bring it to the board. Okay. And Natasha, you're in camera, so I just want to make sure that there's not something that you wanted to say, or you're waiting for board reflection.
I'm waiting for board reflection.
All right. Okay. And I know that sound was not good today, so I want to apologize again. Anything else in future agenda items? Otherwise, board reflection. Ursula?
I was talking board reflection.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just really appreciated having the students and getting that, like, jumping into getting more involvement with the students. It's something that happened, like we talked about at the SBA conference 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're moving forward.
Thank you. Natasha?
I was going to say something similar. One, I've brought up, I think actually for the past 2 years, possibly putting on as a permanent agenda item, whether it's like part of the COLE reports or whatever, but space for any student group to come forward and report out to us if they want, so students can feel like that they're welcome at every board meeting to share what's happening. The other thing is, I just want to remind board members that you got an invitation to come in and look at the pilot exhibitions that are happening. I attended many last year, and I'm going to attend some next week, and they're really amazing. And it's a great way to get into the school, see what's happening, and students are going to have conversations with you if you're in the classroom with them. So I understand people's flexibility is different, but we have been invited into the building by students, and I just encourage all board members that if possible to take advantage of those invitations.
Thank you, Natasha.
What is happening?
Yeah, the pilot presentations, we all received that invitation. The pilot presentations for the students are all happening there in two particular dates. And I know it's hard because it's during the day. I've attended many, and it's some of my favorite presentations. It's amazing to see what they do.
That's in our email?
It's in your email, yeah, and I can double check and send it.
Koenigsberger?
Amy sent it.
Bauer would have been.
Yeah, and she sent it to the full email list of the school board, so you should have received it.
And Pilot is one of our independent learning programs.
Yeah.
For those of you who may not have attended one before.
And she does a great job, and the students do an amazing job too, so. Okay.
When's the next meeting?
The 22nd. Yeah. Any more board reflection before we open it to public comment? Okay. So let's open it to public comment. Thank you for everybody that was online. I'm sorry about the tech. Okay, we have our first hand. Mr. Gilbert, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself. We can't see you, but please go ahead. Oh, there you are.
Can you see me now?
I can see you now. Welcome.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having us, giving us this opportunity. I just wanted to give a shout out to Stephen Dellinger-Pate for his visit at the Doty School on Monday morning. I think there's a total of somewhere between 5 and 8 of us at any one given time. and it was a great conversation. We really appreciated his thoughtful and informed comments, and we appreciated the opportunity to meet with him. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
You want me to?
You.
Yeah, so Alan was kind enough to thank me for coming out. I went out to the Doty School for the coffee and conversation time. It's not just at Doty, it occurs across the district. We've been trying to publicize it. I will say that Doty had my best turnout to date. In fact, the number of people at Doty equaled the number of people who've attended all the other ones combined. And so yeah, shout out to Worcester. But I would also encourage, not only am I there for coffee and conversations at the schools, and you're welcome. You don't have to come to your communities. You can come to any of them. And I've also tried to make myself available at some community locations. We're trying to mix up the times because I know that it's not perfect for everybody, but certainly I would invite any member of the community board. Zach joined me the other day at the East Montpelier Fire Department, which I really appreciated, but Zach was my only guest for that one. And I know middle of the day is tough on people, but I would just encourage people to come out to those, and I really enjoy talking with the community about what's going on.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to adjournment. So I would be looking for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody online for coming. Thank you, the administrators, principals for being here, Jen and Julia too. And thank you especially to the kids. Oh my goodness, this is why we're here. You guys are awesome.
They're doing that.
Keep this up. Yeah.
So I'd like just help yourself to a jar of nuts. I mean, they're really good. Yeah, they're not warranted in any way. So you might want to be good. You might want to give them to your kids first and see how they react. But help yourself and do a nice job with you guys. What? No. Administrator says.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Who did the motion, or should I do the motion? Patrick moved to adjourn, Keely seconded. Okay.